Meanwhile, back in hell, Michael and Jason have arrived at Demon Con. And Michael's idea is to present himself as Vicky in the Michael suit and then say that Glenn is in a Jason suit. The plan actually seems to be working as they bring Janet out and she plays along, saying that it was terrible torture. They almost get away, but of course, out pops the actual Vicky in a Michael suit. When all hope seems lost, welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the next episode of The Good Place. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, I'm going to give you a little bit of an agenda here. We start off with the Potent Notables, which are just a couple interesting facts or tidbits that I found out about the episode or series. Then I do the episode overview, which is just me talking about everything that happened in the episode from beginning to end. And then I do the rank, the namesake of the show, where I rank the episode in 5 categories on a score of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, all to figure out what is the best sitcom of all time. Now, today we're going to be ranking the 5th episode of the 4th season of The Good Place, titled Employee of the Bearimy, written by Joe Mande and directed by Beth McCarthy Miller. This show is available on Prime Video. I mean, you can watch it if you want to. There will be spoilers, is basically what I'm telling you, so watch it if you don't want spoilers. But without further ado, let's dive into this episode and see how it ranks, starting with the Potent Notables.
Potent Notables.
So this episode aired Thursday, October 24th, 2019, and we're right back to scraping bottom again. The Good Place went from 2.024 million viewers to 1.914 million. Yikes. Even worse than the previous low. I just don't get it. I was one of those almost 2 million that watched it when it came out. I mean, what was everyone else doing? Interestingly, NBC brought back Will and Grace again, but they put it into the 9:30 slot after The Good Place. So The Good Place ended up being the least watched show of the night for NBC. Perfect Harmony keeps beating it in the 8:30 slot, and Superstore continues to be the best performing sitcom of the night for NBC. As for competition, there was Legacies on the CW, which only got 843,000 viewers, so it was sort of easily beaten. But Million Little Things on ABC had 4.379 million, and Mom on CBS had 6.337. Naturally, the winner of the night was NFL Thursday Night Football on Fox, which had 13.478 million viewers. Who played Antonio?
No! Somebody stop him!
While the Minnesota Vikings beat the Washington football team, as they were called then, 19-9. Sounds like a terrible game. Not sure why so many people bothered with it. But here's the thing, The Good Place also lost to NBA's opening night on TNT. That's right, more people tuned in to see the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Houston Rockets than watched The Good Place.
I can't imagine why.
So what's the first potent notable after the ratings? A football one, of course. Since this episode was filmed before the 2019 Jacksonville Jaguars season began, the joke about Nick Foles breaking his clavicle was actually dubbed in at the end of the episode. That's why you don't see them actually saying. Now, many of the photos displayed on the Employee of the Bearimy wall are also featured in Parks and Recreation as the wall of former city council members. And in case you don't know the connection there, both shows were created / written by Mike Schur. Anyway, those are the potent notables. Let's go to the episode overview. So we start the episode with Janet in a jail of magnets being tortured by Vicky in a Michael suit. So Janet is giving her tips, though, to help make her a better Michael. I'm not sure why she would do that, but when Vicky talks about getting into character, Janet says it does actually feel like torture when Vicky discusses her acting process, which I enjoyed quite a bit. So we head over to Jason and Michael on the hand car, and we find out that Michael has given all the afterlife memories back to Eleanor, which we knew, and Tahani, which I didn't know. Did I miss something in the previous episode? Am I just forgetting that this happened? Anyway, he decides to give Jason his memories back as well, with the hope that it will give Jason some restraint. But after that brief little time with Michael and Jason, we head back to the neighborhood where Eleanor tells everyone that Janet is having maintenance done. We find out that she's now leaning on Derek to keep the neighborhood afloat, which pretty much instantly collapses. How it didn't collapse earlier is a little bit beyond me. Was Bad Janet running the neighborhood previously? If so, how? Anyway, Eleanor is going to announce that they're having an Earth Day where people do things for themselves. One group of people is going to be knitting, another gardening, and then the main group is going to a lake house for lake activities, to which Brent says, "Suck it, gardeners." Brent doesn't seem to be getting any better, but we don't get any time with that. Meanwhile, Tahani is put in charge of the lake house activities, and she started to feel underutilized and wants to be more useful. This will eventually lead to her going to get Chidi, who stayed behind from the lake house, and then convincing Derek to reboot himself. Eleanor gets pretty annoyed by it all, but always ends up pulling it out, including this time, despite Tahani saying that the fake puzzle that Eleanor tells Chidi Chidi he can solve will have the answer to the truths of the universe. And then when Eleanor's got him walking blindfolded, Tahani tells him that a unicorn died. Then fixing that by saying it was just a regular horse getting stabbed in the head. That was pretty enjoyable. Meanwhile, back in hell, Michael and Jason have arrived at Demon Con. And Michael's idea is to present himself as Vicky in the Michael suit and then say that Glenn is in a Jason suit. The plan actually seems to be working as they bring Janet out and she plays along, saying that it was terrible torture. They almost get away, but of course, out pops the actual Vicky in a Michael suit. When all hope seems lost, Jason shows Michael the demon exploder gun from the previous episode. Now this leads to an excellent part where Michael threatens Rufus, a random demon, that if he comes any closer, he's going to shoot him with the demon exploder. And Sean is like, at least make it sound real. Then Rufus steps closer and Michael explodes him, and Sean says, touche. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Now Rufus wouldn't be the only one. Vicky gets exploded as well, and Michael and Janet and Jason are able to get away. Eleanor does eventually get Chidi to the lake house where he promptly kisses Simone in front of Eleanor, which made me feel bad for poor Eleanor. Then on top of that, Tahani exercising a bunch of self-pity is then comforted by Eleanor as well. I mean, it was nice, but come on, Tahani, maybe not the best time to seek approval, you know? So that's how that story ends, but we still have time to cut over to Janet, Jason, and Michael on the handcar headed back to the neighborhood. And this is where we get the brilliant Nick Foles stuff. Janet has to break it to Jason that bad Janet wasn't lying about Blake Bortles, and then Jason is all excited that it turns out that they have Nick Foles now. Then right at the end, Janet says, oh, Nick Foles just broke his clavicle. Jason's like, no! I mean, this is good stuff. But let's find out how it ranked.
Oh, wait.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh out loud. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. And before I dive into the rankings, I just want to say if you're enjoying the episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, first category is story, and I gave that a 4. So the story is getting Janet back to the neighborhood and how Eleanor can handle the neighborhood in the interim. It's a good story and it fits within itself. It is a story that causes some coherence issues though, as we'll get to. But let's go to the next category, which is acting, and I gave that a 4.75. Excellent as always. Jason Mantzoukas being Jason Mantzoukas is why it's not a 5. He's not bad, obviously, but he's not great enough for this to be a 5. It just feels like he just plays Jason Mantzoukas. Anyway, let's go to dialogue, which I gave a 4. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag here because it felt odd that nobody cared where Jian Yu was and that we aren't getting to see any progress really. However, it was also really funny. So let's go to episode coherence, which I gave a 2. Does this mean that Bad Janet was controlling all the people in the neighborhood up till now? If so, how? It seems like the neighborhood would have collapsed into bedlam without Janet from the beginning, and it's not like Derek was doing anything prior to that. I don't know, that just feels like a hole to me. Additionally, why did no one wonder where Jian Yu was? Especially Chidi. You'd think Chidi would be super worried about Jian Yu. Why is he suddenly so carefree? It just feels like they kind of just decided to do some stuff and thought, fuck it, on some of the continuity. Alright, so let's go to the last category, which is character relatability, which I gave a 4. Everyone is super relatable here except Chidi. He seems weird in this episode, like he's so cheerful but doesn't do anything because he's so fearful. I don't know, he just feels incongruous. And then poor Eleanor, again and again. Obviously she's relatable. Alright, that's it. So some up and down rankings here, but as long as it has a decent laugh counter, it'll remain in the top 3. And in this case, it had a really decent laugh counter. It got me 22 times. And that puts the episode total at a 40.75, which means it's a meaning of life. This puts the series average at a 38, which is in the holy grail. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment. And please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast, where you can get access to all of our archived episodes. And remember, if you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But I will leave you with this. Why does Michael not want to go back to the bad place?
Why is that?
Because he possesses a great soul now.
Boo this man! No!
That does actually feel like torture.
Froze up again.